He addressed it, and it was swift because people got to see what it was like.
Yeah.
And what could be more impactful? Because you know what? These people that's saying, oh, I didn't even know Asians are being attacked, then they must be living under a rock, because they know, they hear it, okay? But they're not listening. They're not listening to us. That's the difference.
They listen to what they want to listen to.
They don't.
Lucky Boys Podcast.
I was at dinner the other day with a friend of mine, Jack, and one of the things that struck me. So Jack played a huge role in getting everybody together for the big Asian rallies in Chinatown against hate.
That's beautiful.
And one of the things that stuck out with me is he mentioned it's I wouldn't say it's the exact same comparison, but he brought a small comparison to the way Malcolm X fought for African Americans against racism, and the way Martin Luther King fought against it. Malcolm X with his guns blazing and violence, because racism is a violent thought, in my opinion. It's a violent thing to do, whether it be emotional or physical. Martin Luther King, he used reason, serenity, calmness, but strength at the same time, and
A lot of grace.
and exactly. And who was more successful ultimately? Disagree or not, I think it was Martin Luther King. And so
I think it depends on who you ask.
I would agree with that. But in my opinion, that's what it was. And then I thought about some of the things going on in the Asian community over the past 6 months, the way it affected me. If someone was attacked, it made me want to attack the assailant. And I thought about, maybe that's not, as much as I wanted to do that, maybe that's not the right way to go about things. Because the person attacking, again, that's their own demons. And attacking them is not going to help them figure out what they're supposed to do with their lives.
Even if you win, you lose. So I agree with you there. However, I think there are situations where you do have to fight fire with fire. If you're backed into a corner, it requires meeting that same energy, if not going to a further extreme, in order for it to stop. Now, when we talk about racism, I agree, it is very violent, because the end result is death. If you look out through history, any type of racism, you can see that there's a direct correlation with a lot of people being discriminated against and ultimately leading to someone dying. Racism is extremely dangerous. You have to make changes, but it needs to be swiftly with racism. It's very tricky. Being kind is a longer road to change something. People just aren't going to change overnight, the other side. It takes some time for the mentality to mature. And the way to expedite that is to meet fire with fire. That's the only way that they'll begin to understand, is when they feel the burn as well of their own consequences that they initiated, and it boomerang back to them. I feel that racism should be addressed swiftly, because if you don't, it grows larger and larger and larger. It's, to use an example or metaphor, it's like trying to get a car over a speed bump. If you don't develop enough momentum and speed, you're not going to get over that speed bump. It needs to be addressed quickly before it gets out of control. If someone's able to take a narrative and influence a whole nother generation of people to hate on each other, that's going to create a catastrophic war that's going to be very challenging to go back on before too many lives are impacted negatively. So I think, for the most part in life, I'm okay with taking the higher road, but I do understand that there are times in life as well where there is only one road.
I think there's multiple roads to that, honestly. When you look at MLK, right, he did passive protests, but he was very smart. He knew that racists were very violent, and he used that to his advantage. He made sure that the media was covering this. He made sure people were aware that this was happening to his community. When he walked in Selma, over the bridge. He made sure that the news channels were covering the walk across the bridge. And when that happened, when the police actually attacked these innocent protesters, America was shocked, and people didn't know. And that's what's happening now. People, just like in my general, like my colleagues at work, they don't know what's happening to the Asian community. This was something that people spoke up about, and then they were shocked.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about people that are not non-Asian, right? That are outside of our community, but it was a shock to them. So I think there's a lot of different avenues to address racism, and one of it is make people aware. There's another avenue where, yes, you have to stand up against it. If your back's to the wall, you have to address it in certain situations, obviously. But have to be safe about and you're looking out for your fellow man and woman, right?
What MLK did was intelligent, and he addressed it the way he knew how. But he addressed it, and it was swift because people got to see what it was like.
Yeah.
And what could be more impactful. Because you know what? These people that's saying, oh, I didn't even know Asians are being attacked, then they must be living under a rock, because they know, they hear it, okay? But they're not listening. They're not listening to us. That's the difference.
They listen to what they want to listen to.
They don't see it. If you see it, look
Right.
what happened to George Floyd. People knew racism against blacks was chronic and prevalent. There's just no doubt about it. But they didn't know the extent of it in terms of being black, being knelt on, watching your life go away down to your last breath being recorded. And when we saw that, black people or people of color was like, man, again, I told you, I've been trying to tell you guys this for the longest. Now you want to listen? Now you want to listen. Look, right there. Now you're going to tell me that,
became aware of it.
what's wrong with, now what they try to do, dehumanize George Floyd. Oh, he was on drugs and whatnot. But
besides the point,
that's not the point.
Yeah.
That's not the point. So, yes, so what MLK did, he showed people, and that's what I'm saying. You have to fight, and I'm not saying meeting violence with violence, but what I am saying is that you have to accelerate. You have to fight back in the smartest way possible that will make the biggest impact.
Fight back with the same energy, but it doesn't have to be physical.
Right. The key thing is you do need to fight back. You can't sit on your behinds and just allow this to happen. You have to set these cultural boundaries. And then, what's crazy is eventually we're all going to be one race. I feel like within our lifetimes, the conversations are going to change where there's just going to be so many mixed race people. Actually, most of the new people that I'm meeting, that younger kids, they're all mixed race. From my kids, your kid is going to be, both my kids are
Dominicano.
mixed race. Your kids is mixed race. My friends' kids are mixed race. The new kids that I'm meeting, kids that I hoop with, are mixed race. I mean, we're going to have a conversation where someone's go, hey, I'm half this or I'm a quarter this. Like we're going to have to start moving the conversation forward at some point because everybody's going to be a little bit of everything.
Yeah.